not living up to those standards, you have the right to let us know. We respect the fact that people invest their hard-earned money, their time, their energy to be a fan of ours. When this wave of energy comes, how do we as the Philadelphia Union take advantage of that?
Welcome back to our season preview series. I'm Dave Leno. I'm pleased to be joined by Union President Tim McDermott. Tim, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here, Dave.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, really grateful to be alongside you and our talented staff. Tim, I want to start the conversation by going back to late last year. You and I, along with the staff, players, coaches, were on the field celebrating that second shield. How did that momentous occasion galvanize you, your staff, in the 2026 to have similar success this go around?
Yeah, look, we've been a pretty successful team over the last 6 to 7 years. I think we've have really good alignment inside our organizational walls between first team, second team, academy. I think we understand the system of play. I think we understand and have developed a scouting model that's very unique that fits that system. And it's probably a little bit of our black box, quite frankly. And, what was probably people don't necessarily realize how we do it, but we have a very unique model, based on our style of play. And we weight, if there's 50 different variables in our model, we weight those variables differently for us than maybe, say, a Miami would or another team would. And so we can put thousands of prospects through that model and help us to identify people that come out on the other side of that model and say, these are the ones that we're going to scout. And then we have a team of scouts that then goes and looks at them and ensures that they do fit, with the eye test. And so, we've been able to do that now for 6 or 7 years. Give a lot of credit to Bradley Carnell coming in here. He is kind of a guy that I think has a high emotional intelligence, understood the situation, and really kind of recharged us, right? And so I think you put together what he's done and what what we do from a scouting standpoint with a very unique style of play, and allows us to differentiate ourselves and be very different. There's only a few teams in the MLS that kind of play the same style of soccer as we do. And so that alignment, though, is key. And I think that's where teams, clubs, in any sport can get out of whack a little bit, right? When you just don't have the alignment between everybody in the system. And I think that's what we have. And we've had it for a long time. And brought Bradley in, and he's done such a great job just kind of, recharging the group and winning over the players and getting them to buy into everything that we're doing. So if you're a fan, you say, okay, now we've done that. We've had a great, run for 6 or 7 years. Obviously our goal is always to get to the MLS Cup, right? That's what we want to get to and win that. But you got to get to the playoffs to have that chance. And we've done that, right? And we've done that consistently. And when you get in the playoffs, like anything can happen, right? There's a lot of variables once you get there. So I think that's always our mindset is like, how do we get to that into the playoffs? And then we're in the tournament, so to speak. And, that's the goal. We come into this year and every year it's to, compete in that tournament. So it's exciting. We've got, a handful of new players. I think you've seen our model where, we're in a situation where we try to identify people, prospects, players that, not everybody knows about, quite frankly. And so they have to kind of earn it. They have to prove it. So we go through our model that we use and we find these guys. And so we have 4 or 5 new guys and a couple more kind of still on the way here. And so far, early returns are, they look good.
From the business perspective, what's it like for you and your staff, coming from, again, getting that second shield, the terrific success we had last year, getting into the playoffs yet again. But now, after maybe the staff takes a little bit of a break, catches their breath for maybe the first time, yeah. What takes place for those that don't know inside the building?
Yeah, so MLS, if you look at the kind of the 5 major sports leagues in North America, MLS has the shortest offseason. It's very, very quick. And so it's not classic. Probably the NFL has the longest offseason, and you get to the offseason and you get to take a breath and you get to build your plans. And the reality is for us is we're doing all that back in the September, October time period, so that when we get to the offseason, like we're already there, we're already like prepared for it. So we've been doing that for a while. We have a lot of new things planned coming up at the stadium this year over the course of the year. So, if you're a fan, you're going to see a new sport lighting that's going to be at the Subaru Park. It's the theatrical lighting that you can do these days, and that'll be pretty unique, pretty special. We have a new food and beverage partner in Airmark, and so the big thing that you'll see is after the World Cup, there'll be some significant renovations that happen during the World Cup break. Coming out of that World Cup break, when you walk into Subaru Park, the concourse is going to look massively different coming out of that World Cup break, just with new food and beverage offerings, the aesthetics, et cetera. So a lot of new things happening there. We're still trying to continue to develop the campus. We've bought more land just off of Seaport Drive here. It's a plot of land called Chester Machine Works. We just finished that purchase, so we're trying to figure out, now that we have that, how do we continue to develop that area? Do we put another field? We obviously launched, Open Wisfis Bank Sportsplex this past year. That's been fantastic. People have loved it. And so that might just be a natural extension of the land we bought to put another field or some more sports properties over there. So, yeah, it's exciting.
The transformation of this campus, even when I first started in 2016, I think we both came in together then to see where I used to park, and now it's one of the training fields. And you mentioned the indoor facility for the academy, second team, seeing the first team in there as well, and then doing all the chalk talks at Union Yards, and also the Sons of Ben. And what I love out there is, Tim, at that tailgate, you see the Sons of Ben, you see Union Yards, but it also brings everybody together as the Sons of Ben are marching in. Game day atmosphere, how has that changed maybe from when you first started here, from your chair to now, and where do you want to see that continue to grow now into 2026?
Look, I feel like in some regards, the story is a little bit of the same in the sense that the Sons of Ben really, originated this team and will always be at the heart of what we do. And I think in soccer and football, the supporters groups have a very unique dynamic to the sport. It's very different. And if you're not familiar with the sport of soccer, football globally, that's a unique thing to have a supporters group that lead the chants and the cheers and the tifo and the smoke, and makes it special, makes it different. It's such a unique thing for a Philadelphian to be able to experience that. So we continue to lean into that. I think with our kind of the sport lighting we're doing this year, you'll see a little bit more of a theatrical open that will unveil as it gets darker. Our kicks, I should say, during the dark. So we'll do some more of that. It's going to be a great year. And by the way, I have to also say, in terms of fan interest and fan growth, one of the biggest things we have is you, and the energy that you bring is phenomenal. I really absolutely love it. And my parents are 80 years old. They'll listen to you, watch you, and they'll be like, this guy on radio, on TV, he's amazing. And it's so true. When you have that energy in those games and those calls of the games, man, it captures someone's hearts and their interests, and I love what you do. So I can't say thank you enough to the energy that you bring is amazing.
Thank you very much.
I wish every
I
MLS
really
broadcaster would emulate you. It's phenomenal.
You're very kind to say that. I really appreciate that. You know how much I admire what you and your staff does, and I know the time that it takes from the business side and how that kind of correlates to what the players do out in the pitch. And we do it for the fans. And from a radio play-by-play standpoint now, I serve the fans. I feel like I close my eyes. I'm out there, in the sections like right before me, just being side by side with all our brothers and sisters out there, and we're loving the product out there, and I want everybody to feel like they're in the building, especially now that we're calling on radio. So again, I really appreciate that. Tim, it's a big year. You talked about the game day experience. 2026, of course, we know it's a World Cup year, right? In the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The MLB All-Star Game is coming here. The PGA Championship, of course, the 250th anniversary of our country. From the Union side, how big of a year is it for Philadelphia Union as an organization and for its fans in 2026? And how can we take advantage of this opportunity, of course, with the World Cup being here?
Yeah, going back, 4, 5, 6 years when, everybody was hyped about winning the bid to bring the World Cup. It's amazing that we're finally at this point. And at some level, I don't think we 100% know. When I say we, I mean the in our case, the Philadelphia fan, the greater Philadelphia, Delaware Valley region, of what this is going to truly feel like. You know, you've heard people talk about it's a Super Bowl times 30, and that is exciting. The challenge that we've got from a Philadelphia Union standpoint, MLS standpoint, is when this wave of energy comes to the region, how do we as the Philadelphia Union, the organization, take advantage of that? How do we convert people to becoming soccer fans, becoming Philadelphia Union fans? And, you know, there's a great opportunity and there's great challenges, right? If everybody hops on board and is participating in soccer, and we have a rise in youth soccer participation, which is what happened back in 1994, that's going to be, I think, an awesome opportunity for us as the Philadelphia Union, because we didn't have, you know, an MLS back in 1994. Obviously, we didn't have a Philadelphia Union, right? So now with us in place and the infrastructure in place, when we have a rise in youth soccer participation, I think we can take advantage of that. We can take or make more lifetime fans as a result of that. But at the same time, we have to be in the conversation, right? So from our perspective, our players, our coaches, our staff need to be in the World Cup conversation, whether that be in radio and TV and newspapers and blogs, whatever it may be, so that we are providing education. We're in the mix. You know, you're going to see our players on TV, you know, acting as, you know, experts, if you will, talking about the World Cup and how does this work, and, you know, how good is this team versus that team. And so we got to get into the mix. But then at the same time, like, we have to be smart about how do we win people over. You know, we have a few projects that we're working on here. I don't want to get too far in front of my skis on this, but, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about, you know, the access to the sport and how do we provide more access to the sport, and not just Philly, but I'm talking about in the United States. And I think it's a fair discussion, and it warrants some real evaluation of just where we are today and the way it's structured, and is that a barrier for more people to participate in it. And so I think we're going to be embarking on a few things that will launch probably coming out of the World Cup that are really focused on broader participation, broader access, getting soccer into the school community much more than it's ever been. So I'm really bullish on what this is going to look like and how we're going to do it, and the ability to provide soccer to literally hundreds of thousands of kids in the Delaware Valley. I think it could be a game changer for us, something we haven't done. And if we can get this right, I think this is kind of the legacy opportunity that comes out of the World Cup for us.
I'm a young dad. I have a son that plays soccer, and what I love driving around the Philadelphia area is that there are hundreds upon hundreds, and I think everybody watching this knows this, of kids, girls, boys playing soccer. Whether they continue it, that's another conversation. But when they start, I feel like everybody's kicking a ball. And I always think to myself, how can we have those kids continue to morph into their teen years and a little bit older to continue to play soccer? Of course, there's many choices. You're a multi-sport athlete yourself. You know that. I just hope that, you know, what I love is like seeing like the Philadelphia Union badge out at these fields, and the brand continues to grow. And I think that goes hand in hand, of course, with the World Cup being here, but also with how well the Philadelphia Union organization is.
So I'll tell you, it's interesting you say that. So, you know, many years ago, when my kids were, you know, 7, 8 years of age, and on sidelines watching them play soccer, and I'd look down the sidelines and I'd see, you know, all the parents on the sidelines wearing, you know, Eagles gear, and I felt like, goodness, like we've got to get to a situation when these soccer parents are now wearing Union gear. So fast forward, last night at a Super Bowl party, a bunch of kids that were there wearing Union gear. So I thought it was an interesting, just observation of seeing that. Look, we have miles to go, and what you said is true. We have a lot of kids who are playing youth soccer, and I think, again, as I said earlier, with the World Cup, you'll see a spike in kids participating in youth soccer. We've got to figure out now how to take that and convert that to something that they do as an activity, to something that the moms and dads and the kids, you know, we win their hearts, right, to become fans of us and develop that fandom. And it's not just something that you do when you're 6 years of age or 8 years of age, and that we lose that connectivity. And that's something that I think, again, warrants a little bit more evaluation of like where, or if you look at, the last, call it 20 years of since the Union have been here, and other MLS teams, where have we not connected to keep that, to win that heart and mind of that kid? And so I do think, going back to what I said before, if we can figure out ways to get it into the school systems, further into the school systems, into places that currently don't have soccer, whether you're in PE class, right, and you're not exposed to it, if we can do that, that'll be a step in the right direction. As somebody said to me, don't underestimate the power of a teacher. Mm-hmm. And if a teacher says, or a coach says, hey, I really love the Philadelphia Union, I really love soccer, that has a big weight on a child, the same way that a parent does, right? So I think if we can continue that sort of mindset, we'll gain more of that, the heart and the minds of the kids that are playing it. But we have a long way to go in there.
I agree with you. Look, my mom's a teacher. My wife's been an educator as well. So personally, we love the teachers, and I'm right on with you, especially in PE class, going back to school for me in Bucks County. Like, I remember doing pickleball for the first time in 8th grade, and now look how that sport, sure. Very niche, but how much that's blown up. And I'm right there with you with soccer and the very iterations of soccer that you can play for kids as a youth. I want to talk about how approachable this Philadelphia Union experience is for fans. And I often, and you see me out with you and your staff at Union Yard, Sons of Ben tailgate, and of course going up to do the broadcast too, both home and on the road, seeing our great fans, Tim. And that's how, when I hear fans, whether it's a young family, older family, coming for the first time, I'll tell you almost every single time how much they love the product, love being here. And I know we've hit on this maybe a couple times so far in our conversation, but the outreach, and your staff does a good job trying to bring people in.
Yep.
And friends and family of the Union do that as well, those that come here a lot. But what are some of the feedback that you and your staff are hearing for those that are coming for the first time, or how to get that family or that individual person down here who hasn't seen the Union?
Yeah, so what we've, the research that we've seen is that there's a magic number of like 2.75 games that you get to. And once you kind of get to that number of games of frequenting us, you really become a deeper fan. You really then, you might buy a partial game plan or a season ticket or something like that. And so what we've got to do is we've done a good job of getting people here for the first time. What we've got to do is get them back for that second, third time, right? So that they know the names on the back of the jersey, so that they feel and know the songs that the Sons of Ben are singing and experience it. And it goes from an event to a heart thing, and you're truly a fan of it. And so that's a little bit of the homework that we have on our side to kind of convert that and get them up the curve, so to speak, to become deeper fans of us, and not just, hey, come here for the first time. Now, getting here for the first time, yes, we need to do that. And when somebody does come here for the first time, then we got to make sure that we're giving them a great experience, which I think we've always done. I think, we've won awards that, hey, this is the best live experience in Philadelphia. I think we've done a great job with that. But now it's like, okay, let's be smart about how do we get them back that second, that third time. And I think once you do that, you really become a deeper fan of the Union.
Yeah, no, love that. And I like I said before, I think when people come here and you experience the product, you want to come back, take in the atmosphere, learn a little bit more about the Sons of Ben, learn a little bit more about what some folks do at the Union, both as a game day employee and as a full-time employee.
I should point out one thing too, is big change this year, with Apple and season pass. So obviously a couple of years ago, league, went to MLS season pass through Apple. Now coming into 26, you no longer need the season pass, so you'll just get it if you're an Apple subscriber. That's a big shift. That's a huge shift. So to kind of get out of that secondary paywall, I think is going to be a big opportunity for us from an exposure standpoint.
For marketability that you speak of there with Apple, but let's turn it now to on the pitch. For Bradley, his staff now going into year 2, and some of these younger players, what's that challenge for those that maybe don't know the business side for you and your staff, from the marketing to video production like we're doing right now? to help educate fans, other than researching on their own, kind of like what I do for broadcast prep, but to kind of say, hey, who's a Jaffet Siri Larson, who's a Martinez coming in, or a Finn Sundstrom, some of these younger players that fans are going to know about very quickly, just like a new striker in Ezekiel Alado.
Yep. When you say all that, the person who jumps to mind obviously is Kevin.
Yeah.
And it's really a fascinating kind of marketing kind of observation experiment, when you look at him and kind of his ability to transcend in the sport and find kids who are of his age that go, I know Kevin Sullivan, right? My daughter, 15-year-old, and you say name a Union player, and it's going to be Kevin. So, there's something very unique and very marketable about him. And then obviously, hopefully he's going to be on the field a lot more this year, and you hope he's going to continue to grow and accelerate and develop. But we've had a good track record of bringing these guys in. We're a development-based squad, so that doesn't just mean we're developing 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 16-year-olds, but we are developing even when you bring in somebody. Like the guys you mentioned, like that's our focus. Our coach's focus is to make sure that we have a development plan for each one of them. And so we've done a good job with that. It's we pride ourselves on that. And a lot of what we did with the construction of the Worcester Bank Sportsplex was with that in mind.
A couple of the guys that are coming into my mind now are those that have been here, like a Bedoya getting re-signed. Andre Blake's been here. Thank goodness he was much more healthy this year. I'm still like closing my eyes right now, thinking back to that save he made in the New York City playoff game just to keep us in that game. Then he unfortunately had to come out, but what a heroic stop from a powerful strike from the halfway line from the New York City side. Okay, but seeing what Rick can do also as a goalkeeper, his maturation process. But then other guys that come to mind. Year two now. In a half a season for the Union of Milani Lasky, now going to be wearing the number 10. A new extension for an Indy Vaslev, who Bradley knows very well from St. Louis. Nate Harriel stepping into even more of a leadership role.
Yep.
So, Tim, you have a mix of the younger players that we just spoke of, Cavitt, of course, one of them. You got some veteran players, even though some have departed. What's that like from your standpoint and some of the expectations that you kind of foresee that's going to take place in 2026 that Union?
Yeah, listen, I think people should expect us to compete in a really significant way. I think we've had that track record of success. I think that should be the expectation, that we continue to have that level of success. And our goal, like I said, is to always get into the tournament, always get to that playoffs, and then we'll see what happens. And I think with the changes that we've made, these are smart changes, right? These are changes that they're baked in a lot of analysis and data, and our guys do such an amazing job with this and identifying people that fit our system. So I think from a fan perspective, people should be excited to see the new people and how they kind of fit in with what we're doing. But at the same time, you go, okay, this is a nucleus of people that have now, they understand what we're doing. They had a lot of success, right? Whether you're talking about Indy or you're talking about Danley or right, McCanya, like all these guys, right? Frankie, all these guys, Nate, there's a good nucleus of guys that are back. And then you'd like to think that we made, smart decisions to bring in new players that are going to take us to the next level. We'll have to see if that can be the case, right? There's no guarantees and something like that, but it's exciting, I think, for where we were to where we are. I think we're taking steps forward. Again, we need some guys who we brought in, and now we're going to have to step in and earn it and show it and prove it. But that's the way I think we are as a team. Like, we're an earn it team, right? We earn success. We work harder than anybody else out there. I think that from a Philadelphian perspective, if you're a fan of Philadelphia teams, like, you love that, right? Yeah. You love the guy, Aaron Rowan, who went through the center field wall, right? And to catch a ball. You love that mindset, that mentality. And I think that's what we do here at the Union. Like, we live that every single day. And, whether it be the young kids that are in our academy or Union 2 or even the first team, like, that mindset is, baked into our DNA here. Like, we are going to outwork everybody else. Hard work is not easy, right? Like that's the reality of it. And most people won't put the energy into hard work. Like it's not easy to be somebody who outworks the next person, but you can literally create a competitive advantage if that is in your DNA, if that is who you are, if that is how you come to work every day. And I don't care if you're talking the soccer side, the business side, most people will not work hard because it's hard to do it, right? It is not easy. So when you find people that breathe that, live that, it's inside of them, you will have success with those people. Maybe they're the most talented, maybe they're not. The reality is if they are willing to work hard, they will have success. I firmly 100% believe that in life.
Right on. That togetherness really caught my eye early. And speaking with Bradley a lot and his staff when they first jumped in Spain last year, in January, just getting in, and everybody kind of believed in the ethos, the DNA of how the team wanted to play. And you speak of data empirically. You look at the pressing numbers, the counter pressing, the PPDA numbers, passes per defensive action. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a team in the Union that doesn't like to have the ball, but some games that may switch where we may play a little bit more out of the back, and the ability of the team to adjust. And you saw a lot of that adjustments that the staff had to make last year, and how that related to success. And for me, it's just from a game caller, Tim, that's what I'm most looking forward to, because as you and I both know, a lot of people wrote off this team before the season started.
Sure.
New staff, right?
Yep.
A couple changes to the roster. How would the veterans react? And everybody bonded together. They went on that massive unbeaten streak. They didn't lose more than 2 consecutive games all year, went back to the playoffs and so forth. And that for me, I mean, yeah, I'm sitting with my Union hat on, but that for me says, I just can't wait to see. I know we have a logjam of a schedule with back in CONCACAF Champions Cup play, back in the regular season, World Cup break, back in Leagues Cup. So there's a lot going on in 2026. But to me, it's like I'm excited to see how everybody meshes with each other. So just want to close out this terrific conversation. But just lastly, and I know you've hit on it a few times, but just your message to the Union fans watching and sticking with this season preview video on what to expect again in 2026 and how fired up you and your staff are for the year.
Yeah, like I said, this is you should expect us to compete at a high level. That is what we do. That's what we expect of ourselves. What we expect of our soccer side. It's what we expect of our business side. And you should hold us accountable to that. And if we're not living up to those standards, you should feel you have the right to let us know. Like whether that's something with the stadium, whether it's parking, or whether it's something that happens on the pitch. Like we respect the fact that people invest their hard-earned money, their time, their energy to be a fan of ours, to put a scarf around their neck, to buy a jersey. Like that means something to us. That means something to me. Like I understand that and I appreciate that. And we need to, to take that as a responsibility and always do our best to put the best product forward at all times. I do 100% believe in what we have going on our soccer side, and this is going to be an exciting team. It's going to be a young team, and it's going to be an energetic team, and it's going to be a team that plays with a lot of just grit and perseverance and hard work and hustle. And I feel good about if we do those things with what Bradley does and the magic that he works, we're going to be in a good position. For now, this year and beyond. Like this is a team that's like set up for success for a while.
Always looking to the future. Can't thank you enough for this amazing conversation, Tim. Thank you so much for the time, and good luck to you and your staff in 2026.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
For Union President Tim McDermott, I'm Dave Leno. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it.